So, for this last part of the afternoon, we have a session on allyship. And this session is structured in two parts. First of all, we are going to give you some insights into the very first allyship investigation within the travel and tourism and hospitality sector. And then the allyship panel, moderated by Dan Pearce of TTG, will come up to discuss their experience of the male allyship network and the mentoring that you might be sort of familiar with has been going on for the past sort of 6, 8, 9 months between the male ally and the mentees. Now, allyship is a very important topic for women in travel, and I think this word has been mentioned several times today, starting with sort of the introduction and then the keynote speaker, Fabulous Jazz, this morning. And the reason why it matters is because allyship can make all the difference. And we at Women in Travel wanted to sort of see it in action, and therefore sort of we established the Male Allyship Network to begin to talk about allyship, in particular in a context of sort of male plus female plus type of relationship. But actually, you know, allyship is important to all of us, and everybody is someone else's ally. So when we decided to look at doing a little bit of investigation into what does allyship mean for people and does allyship exist in this sector, actually we started by looking at the whole allyship concept, and then we drilled down a little bit into the sort of the specific male and female concept. So I'm not going to talk now, but I'm going to introduce Simona. Simona is our Male Allyship Coordinator. She's been on board now for a few months, and she's been helping us with this research. So she's really much better placed than me to talk about the results of this investigation. This is a start. It was a relatively small sample, so I'm not going to claim that we've done it for thousands of people, but our intention is to grow and to do this report every year in conjunction with IWTTF. So, but I still think that it's a valuable piece of investigation and that we can still learn from it. So Simona, without further ado, I'm going to sit down.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alessandra. Thank you, and greetings to everyone here today. So I'll walk you through our research insights. And first of all, it reveals to us that 76% of all the respondents believe that allyship is highly valuable in the workplace. People perceive and value allyship based on their personal experiences. So, for example, allyship was highly valued by those who had previously mentoring experiences. However, we see that as many as a quarter felt that they'd never had an ally in the past. When we asked in what ways respondents' organizations encourage allyship, the most common responses were mentoring programs, learning resources such as articles, also training programs, but still 1 in 5 felt that allyship wasn't encouraged at all. And when it comes to describing what is a good ally, we heard these words throughout the day today as well. Understanding, supportive, and acting as an advocate are the key qualities to being a good ally in our travel industry. And as Alessandra mentioned, we have our Male Allyship Network. So we wanted to also look at allyship to understand how people view it based on gender. So 29% of female and non-binary respondents had a very positive allyship experience in the past. But the other 71% still believe that there can be done much more. So it's simply because we don't have that many male allies in the industry, and it's not a common experience. And also based on responses, previous experiences, they felt that their identities, such as gender, age, race, ethnicity, disability, religion, or sexual orientations, have played a role in the missing out on a race, promotion, key assignment, or a chance to get ahead. So now we also wanted to know how we can get better and how we can improve. So the key areas and actions that male allies can take to support their female and plus colleagues, and also other underserved groups, are fostering inclusive behavior and communication, mentorship, sponsorship, and engaging into recognition and voice of, amplification. So, such as Male Allyship Network programs provide that open space to become better proactive allies. And finally, it's not only about the individual proactive allyship, but also what can organizations do. So most of the responses were about interactive and hands-on learning experiences. So those experiences can foster effective strategies within the organizations, because it's, again, a journey of becoming one step at a time a better ally within your organization and also on an individual level.
So just to finish off with some takeaways before we call Dan and the team to stage. So really, what are the key takeaways from this first sort of piece of research? First of all, allyship starts on an individual level. And really, there is an opportunity for companies to embrace allyship overall, and individuals would like to see their organization do this, because they know that it is through allyship that they can then foster more inclusive, more sort of effective, better environment, happier organization where everyone feels that they can be themselves. Education, training, and mentoring are the key sort of tools to remove barriers to being allies and actually foster allyship in organization. And really the emphasis on the reward that come with being an ally, with sort of supporting people in the workplace, and the fact that allies in the workplace at every level are highly valued when they are experienced, because they can make the difference. And again, we've seen this yesterday at the Male Allyship Network, where allies and mentees have met, and what has come out of those conversations in terms of what people had achieved, and you will hear more, was nothing short of remarkable at times. So this is it from us. Thank you, but it's a good starting point for the discussion. And Dan, it's your turn.
Sorry. Once again, my business, TTG Media. I thought I was projecting well enough. That's good. Thank you. My business, TTG Media, celebrates 70 years of the Travel Trade Gazette this year, our own Platinum Jubilee. So I wasn't expecting a round of applause. But it was actually just 4 years ago that we found our purpose as a business. And our purpose now is very clear: to promote smarter, better, fairer travel. And it's the fairer part of that equation that really gets us moving at TTG. We want to promote an industry that's fairer both to the environment and to the people that work within it. So this partnership with Women in Travel is very important to us. I would say as well, coming back here for a second year, it's great to see a few more men in the room this year. Not only in the room, but on stage as well. So, I think it's important that all of us in this room understand that male allyship is genuine. There really are a lot of men in the industry that want to support women, that want to lift women up in every way they can in their organizations. Maybe they don't know how to, and maybe the scheme that Alessandra's set out, the mentoring scheme for male allies, is one way to do that. And I know we've seen more people come forward in the past few months around that. And I just add, we all have our motivations for doing that. And I know, I'm surrounded by many brilliant women at TTG Media, one of whom is in the room right now. Hello, Catherine. Yep, I had to say that, but that's definitely true. But also at home, my motivation as well is I'm very proud of my two daughters and wanting to help create a world where they have the same opportunities that I have had. I've been lucky enough to have in my own career. And I've been lucky enough to be part of the Male Allyship program myself, both mentoring Elisa from Traveller Storyteller, who is around here somewhere. Elisa, hi. And I also now have a mentee in South Africa. We're meeting on Zoom every 2 or 3 weeks, and I must say I'm learning a great deal from her, and I hope that she's enjoying the experience too. And to explore the whole area further, we have 3 of this year's mentors and mentees to join us on stage. And actually just standing rather at the back of the room for the past 10 minutes. You could have called this session Mentoring Live, because I'm just eavesdropping on the conversations that were going on. It was happening right there at the back of the room. But without any further ado, please welcome to the stage, and we'll come up in their pairs. So we've got Sharon Bershadsky, the director of the Israeli Tourist Board in the UK, and Clive Wratten, chief executive of the Business Travel Association. Followed closely, if you want to go to the end, followed closely by Jools Sampson, owner of Reclaim Yourself Retreats, and Shaon Talukder, CEO and founder of Geotourist. Thank you. And back there somewhere we have Akvile Marozaite, from the Expedition Cruise Network, and Sam Clark, MD of Experience Travel Group. Welcome to you both. I have a feeling I'm not going to have a lot more to say over the next half hour or so. I'm going to hand over to our pairs, but I'd like you each just to set the scene a little bit for us to begin with, just to describe who you are, why you got involved in this scheme, and how long you've been talking, and then we'll dig a bit deeper into some of the issues that come out of the conversation. So let's start with Sharon and Clive. Over to you.
Can I start?
Yeah, you go first. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Sharon from the head of the Israeli Tourist Board in the UK for the past 6.5 years now. And when I've heard about the program for the first time, I eagerly, immediately wrote an email to Alessandra, and I felt like I found the perfect place for me, because I am, and stop me if I'm blabbering too much, I tend to do it. As a tourist board, as the head of the tourist board, I was shipped over here from Israel, and I am, beside of my colleagues in other destinations, in other tourist board, I am here by myself with a few employees, and my bosses and the rest of my colleagues are not here. So it always felt like I wish I had someone to guide me, to mentor me, that I can bounce ideas, and I have it again with some of my colleagues with other tourist board, but it felt like something is missing, and I felt really that I hit the spot when I found out about the mentorship, and Clive was there.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I get embarrassed now. My name's Clive Wratten. I'm the Chief Executive of the Business Travel Association, which represents the business travel industry, both in government and in public, and looking after all of that. And this is my 42nd year in the travel industry. And I'd been talking to Alessandra, actually, I think it was pre-pandemic, we've had the first conversations, and I didn't really have the headspace, and I didn't really think that I could offer anything. And frankly, I'm the problem, right? I'm a white, middle-aged man in a senior position, and I thought, well, that's the last person all of this needs, and it's genuine. And I talk generally about that, I talk about it a lot, but throughout my career, I've worked it out, over 65% of my jobs I've had a female boss. So I've never really seen it as being a problem, and I've had females in my team all the way along naturally. So when this came around, I thought, well, can I actually offer something at all? Because I'm probably the problem, not the solving of the issue. But then we spoke, and I'm so glad I did genuinely, because it realises that when you get older, you sometimes think, well, maybe I haven't got too much to offer, and there's that kind of cheesy thing about I've got to give something back. But it's real, and it feels really good from me. It gave me a new energy of realising that just listening sometimes is such a massive, good thing for the people that you're talking to, and that makes you feel good, and it energises you from that perspective. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it. We've been talking since probably January. I think we put it in December, and it just seems too short, really. We've really just got going, got to understand each other. And today, I think we were just talking about the first time we've probably had any time in a room together, and we were talking about everything. We found out a lot more about each other. It's probably a bit scary now, but it's been a fantastic experience. And men in here that haven't done it yet and thinking about it, then do it. It can be no more than just listening and nodding at the right places, which I think actually men sometimes are quite good at.
And that's great to start in that spirit of, is this one working? No. Yes, thank you. Great to start in that spirit of openness and honesty as well. And Clive, I did say to Clive earlier, you've spoken at hundreds of conferences, but he did say never on this topic. So I think we need to respect the openness here. Let's come to Jools and Shaon. Let's hear a little bit more about your relationship.
Thank you. So my name's Jools, and I run Reclaim Yourself, which is a yoga retreat and wellness travel business. And I came to this conference last year, and I sat at the back with my friend Hilary with full imposter syndrome, thinking, I'm not sure if I should be here. And then when this session happened at the end of the day, I was like, I really, really need this. I really want it. And I spoke to Elisa and said, can you introduce me? And here I am a year later, and I've done it. And I've been running my business for like nearly 18 years, and I've been doing it by myself for a long time. And I design wellness trips all around the world, and it's got more and more successful, more popular, and I've got more and more busy, and just thinking, I don't know how to grow my business. I just doing everything, and then I try and get some help, and it kind of doesn't quite work out. There's only one me. No, maybe I can't do it. Maybe there's nothing else I can do with this business. It's just going to be me working my arse off forever. It's kind of where I was just stuck. So our mentorship was very much, it was very clear what I needed. And it's like, can you help me go from someone who's like a retreat leader, running retreats, designing and delivering retreats, to being a business leader? And I wasn't sure if I could do it. I kind of just thought maybe I've just designed a really crap business and I'm not sure what it can be. But our mentorship is basically, in the 6 months that we've done it, what Sharon has done. We did something. I thought he was going to transform me from being, somebody who's just really busy into this amazing leader. And I thought, it's going to be really exciting. And he said, you need to do an operations manual. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I'm really, really busy, but I will do it. And this is such an amazing opportunity. But I don't know how many of you have done an operations manual. It was my first one. It's actually brilliant. It was an enlightening experience. And from doing the operations manual, I'm now a full convert. I keep going around to everyone going, have you done one? It's just so great.
Did Shaon mark your homework?
Yeah, I had a lot of work to do. So I did my operations manual, and from there was structures and processes, and then I could suddenly see that I could outsource things, which I'd never done before. I just thought I had to find another me. Yep. But then I started to create some space by outsourcing, and then I started a recruitment program, and Sharon mentored me through that, and then it turned into sort of mentoring me through my leadership style. So in that 6 months, we've achieved all of that. but I feel like we've just begun, saying it's not quite long enough.
Yeah, yeah. And Shaon, tell us a bit more about why you got involved in the scheme and how, what you've got from speaking with Jools so far.
Hi everyone, I'm Shaon and I'm the CEO, think about this, CEO and founder of a company called Geotourist, and this is my second year as a mentor. Alessandra was kind enough to invite me in the first year, and each year has been very, very different. And the reason I joined up to the program was I see a lot of problems in the world, and I like to fix problems, and so this was a no-brainer. After the last year's session, one of the things that happened was someone from the audience wrote to me privately and said, "It's good to see someone looking like me on the stage." So the whole DEI thing, or EDI, or whatever it is at the moment, is real. People feel like they want to connect with people that reflect how they are, what their identity might be. And today's kind of talks that I came in the afternoon, but the stuff I heard, I reflected on that actually. I thought, that sounds a bit like me, Oh, okay, that's nice. Good to hear that people are working on safe spaces for people to flourish, to have some downtime, to have some reflection time. I thought, actually, you know what, that's when I excel. That's when I feel like I can deliver more. So, but, it's really, really good to be able to work with someone like Jools who's put herself out there and has been open to the process. I think sometimes it's about timing, about whether you can connect with someone when they're, receptive to the whole process. And sometimes people have got so much on. People, if you're running a business, you'll have so many responsibilities, so many kind of, people reporting in and different feeds. And that can seem daunting. And, what Jools didn't say is that the previous year before, we started working together, she had got another person like her who was as good as her, was able to do the same things, but they were both spinning plates. So they weren't necessarily scaling, they were just, running around like headless together, which is great for the company, but to have a company, but not for the bottom line. So it was about having that shift.
Yeah, and just on that point around busy people finding the time to talk, how often do you talk? How often do you meet?
So we, in the travel business, Jools was always on a retreat somewhere. So when we first met, we actually first met face to face at World Travel Market, and we were just zooming around from meeting to meeting, and we kind of like, come along with me, and did that. But in terms of actual frequency, we managed to get once a month, and that's purely because there was sufficient time to build in some kind of activities and homework, as Jools put it, between, but also she was away, I was away as well at different points, so it kind of worked out that way.
Yeah. And face-to-face then?
So no. So we did most of it online. We have seen each other 2 or 3 times face-to-face at various events, and some of the stuff that Alessandra's put on as well.
And just the same question for Clive and Sharon. How often are you talking?
Yeah, once a month.
Yeah, once a month for sure. And then you came along to one of our conferences, so we got to meet there, and we did meet. I came into your office and met for the first time when we were first together. But yeah, it was generally an hour or more each month. But I think you don't want to make it too much more. There's no kind of right or wrong. I don't think it's just want to make sure that I'm there whenever something comes up, which might be a 15-minute conversation or an email. But yeah.
Good. And let's hear from Akvile and Sam. Welcome.
Hi. So I'm Akvile. I have recently co-founded and I am the CEO of the Expedition Cruise Network. It's a B2B organization that connects expedition cruising to travel trade community. Essentially on a mission to spread some love for expedition cruising as a sector. So when I enrolled into the program, when I applied for a program in October, I already knew I was going to work on this project. So probably, I came to Sam with a list of my little worries and things, I anticipated could probably be a challenge. And yeah, it has been an amazing experience to have Sam alongside this journey and being a sounding board and sometimes challenging me and making me think outside the box and kind of trying to put that thing together, and it's been an incredible experience.
Good. And Sam, tell us a bit about your business and why you got involved in the scheme.
Sam, Experienced Travel Group. Also, I'm the second tallest Sam in the UK travel industry, bit of claim to fame. But yeah, I got involved in this.
First?
Sam from Best at Travel. Do you know him? Slightly taller than me. Tall white guy. There's a few of us around.
We're all about diversity and inclusion here.
As long as you're tall and Sam. So yeah, I got involved because my friend Dee put me in touch with Alessandra, said, my God, Dee's the greatest networker in the history of networking, and she put me in touch with Alessandra, you've got to do, and I came to this event last year, and I thought it looked interesting, and so I agreed to be a mentor, and then I've done it before, and when I mentored before, it was a really young guy who was really struggling, and there was a lot, I guess, that he didn't know about the world. And then I looked at Akvile, at her kind of CV and stuff, and I was like, oh my God, she's so accomplished. Like, she's done all these things. What on earth can I teach her? And I needn't have worried, because basically it was like, hold on and watch and go along for the ride. And it was like, oh my God, that's really good. Well done. That's really good. Wow. And it was so energizing, because she just like smashed it out of the park all the way along the last 6 months, which was just amazing to see with the Expedition Cruise Network.
Yep. Fantastic. So have you advised Akvile specifically around the Expedition Cruise Network and the launch?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously, I think, when you come into this program, you kind of have to have some sort of goals. And I think, that was sort of the key thing that I was thinking about at that time. And it naturally became the key topic we would talk about. And it could be anything, really. Obviously Sam has experience of co-founding a company and just leaning on that and kind of talking through steps. And, there are a lot of things I'm experienced about expedition cruising as a way of traveling, but perhaps I don't know much about, being in a business, or like there are various questions you have, and it's daunting. I mean, it's, you're sort of saying no to every other opportunity out there, and have to take that leap of faith and jump and do something on your own. And it's very nice when you have somebody to hold your hand, or like just kind of walk you through some steps, and also challenge you sometimes, or maybe be enthusiastic as well. Like we need all the support we can get, I think, at that moment, because it's terrifying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And Sam, it sounds a lot like you're getting benefits from this relationship as well.
Yeah, hugely. Apart from the whole energy and the excitement was massive, and I guess also just that thing about seeing people, walking in other people's shoes, just seeing a slightly different perspective, which it was interesting, because if you're mentoring, you're trying to listen and you're trying to put yourself in shoes and ask questions, and it did make me look slightly differently about how. It's hard to say. I'm sure Akvile would not describe this. She didn't describe what was happening in these terms at all. But the way I saw it, looking through her eyes, is that perhaps potentially some people were maybe taking up more space, or taking up space that she could have occupied. And I kind of saw myself doing that a little bit as well in my life. And so that was quite an interesting perspective to get.
Yeah, for sure. So are you somehow organising your life differently?
It's not organising my life, but maybe sometimes shutting up. Yeah. Like, no, yeah. That's probably it. Yeah, just shut up, Sam.
Is this benefiting you at home as well?
Well, it's better. My wife loves it. Yeah.
Okay, well, we wanted to get a bit more into some of the practical steps that you have taken as mentees as a result of this relationship, and find out how this has benefited your working lives. And I think to begin with, Jools, you gave an example there. Perhaps you could expand a bit more on that, because it sounds like this operations manual wouldn't have happened without Shaon's guidance.
No, I'd never even thought about doing an operations manual, to be honest. I think running my business, I'm just so busy and bogged down in the detail all the time, and thought that I was the person that had to do everything because I knew everything. So when I did the operations manual, like my business, I just changed how I thought about my business and how I felt about it. And it went from being this overwhelming thing of like, I've just got to do everything, to just understanding all the different layers of my business. I can't really, it was just like this kind of little miracle that happened. Like, oh, like I just couldn't see it clearly before. So it was just such an amazing tool. And it just kind of like liberated me to think more clearly and think big picture. And like the second part of it, I thought it was impossible to find people like me to come and work with me. And that I've completely left that behind as a way of thinking. Like I don't think like that at all. So it's been this massive mental shift just from doing the magical operations manual, but also like starting the recruitment process and like I didn't know how to recruit. Before I was kind of doing word of mouth and does anyone know anybody, or someone would approach me and say, can I help you? I go, yeah, great, come on. But actually now I've got a proper recruitment process in place. And learning from that, I got people on panels, we interview people, I put people in place. But the way that I'm doing it as a leader and how I'm still, at the moment, I'm still two people. So I'm still the person creating and running the retreats and traveling to all of them. And I'm now also CEO Jools.
Yeah.
And before I thought, I love this travel bit and the CEO stuff, I didn't think of it like that. I just thought it's like loads and loads of really boring admin. Now I'm like, I love this bit. I love being a CEO. And what I love about it is thinking about the people that I've taken on and how I can mentor them to grow into the positions. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie, it's quite hard because I'm still doing this bit and this bit. So I'm now two people.
Yeah.
And I'm more busy than I was before. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Whereas before I was just like, got to keep going. And now I'm like, oh. So yeah, the tools have kind of just set me free.
Talking with Shaon has enabled you to see the bigger picture a little more.
Completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also to realise that I'm not rubbish. I know it sounds so obvious when I'm saying it now, but I just was going into it just thinking, I don't think I'm very good at this bit.
Yeah.
And then talking to Shaon, he's got several businesses, and I realised that so much of this is normal growing pains. That's what happens when you grow a business. It's not easy.
But how brilliant to talk with someone that's been through it then.
100%, yeah. It's been brilliant, yeah.
Akvile, you look like you have something to say.
I'm just nodding here in agreement because I do think that we women excel at, first of all, understanding what we're very bad at. It's the first thing it turns out that very often we don't prepare ourselves for success. Like I can tell you 110 ways I thought how Expedition Cruise Network is not going to work, and then suddenly you have, more subscriptions than you hope for and so on. And you're like, okay, actually, I should have thought about that as well. And it came as a surprise to think that probably, it's something that we should remember, that we should also focus on the possibility that you may be successful.
Yeah, but I think some of this isn't about being a man or a woman at all. It's recognizing that we all have that imposter syndrome, those doubts, those voices in our head, and just as humans, being able to communicate and share that is a really, really important part of being human, actually, I think, and really helpful. Let's continue with the theme of what you're doing differently as a result of the mentor-mentee relationship. And Sharon, you've got a big job as director of the Israeli Tourist Board here in London, but perhaps you're a bit more restricted than someone running their own business here.
It is a bit different, my experience, I guess, but not completely. So I've been in this position for a long time now, and I'm just on the edge of finding out what is my next challenge, and actively actually looking for my next challenge. But I didn't know what to do, how to approach it, and I found millions of reasons why maybe it's not a good idea to do that. And again, like what many brilliant women before me on this stage talked about, the syndrome that we won't remind the name again. And I think from the first second I met with Clive, he came to my office and he was full of understanding and, just as he said before, just listening and to my fears. I was like, okay, I can relate, or I know someone that can relate, or actually, and it's like, okay, I can speak really genuinely, honestly. It's not only that he won't judge me. It was the complete opposite, and a man, an ally, who basically gave me, or still giving me, his hand and take me to this journey of finding more about myself as a professional. I went to one of the conferences of the BTA, immediately introduced me to people. Once a month, like we meet and we speak about all of the challenges that I'm facing, and think about, okay, what else? What next we can do? And it's an ongoing process. I hope it will continue the process from my side at least, but I know it's from Clive's side as well. And we created a kind of even a friendship along the way, and the feeling is absolutely great.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, and do you feel that it was necessary to step outside of the organisation for that sort of support from a male ally?
Specifically with mine, because I'm looking to step away from the organization. So yes,
you couldn't talk about that. Yeah.
In general, yes, because along his career, Clive has been through different organizations, different companies, meeting so many people in the travel industry. And it opened a door for me that there's some things you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
And that was like hitting the spot.
Yeah. No, good. And we'll come to you, Clive, actually, because obviously you are vastly experienced in terms of the different sort of travel, different sort of travel companies you've worked for.
Yeah.
And I think this area has come on a long way, although still some of the points in that research were concerning about individuals or businesses where they didn't feel they had support of male allies. Tell us about the organisations that you've been involved with and how women have been supported.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a really interesting journey, I think, from my career. And it's like everybody, we're born and we have no biases whatsoever at that moment. And then I was born in the 60s, sadly, so it's a long time ago now. And there were masses of biases around. So my tapestry then got filled with a lot of bias that the environment that I was living in. And then as you move through life, you either attach more or you realise that they're wrong and you move on. And I've been very lucky in my career to start off in very British organisations, British Airways and others, but then carrying those biases to a certain degree. As I said, it's remarkable. When I first started work, homosexuality was still illegal in some parts of the United Kingdom. They're the kind of things that you realise have changed in your work span as you move through. So I moved through those. I picked some up, and then most importantly, I moved over to working for Middle Eastern airlines, and in particular running Etihad here in the UK. And at one point in our office, we had 12 different religions, and I think something like 36 different nationalities out of about 70 people. And it really opened my eyes to what was needed, not only from the female environment in a part of the world, shall we say, that has not got a fantastic track record around promotion of women and other diverse areas. But in our little enclave in the UK, we had exactly the opposite to what was happening out in the Middle East to a certain degree. So I learned a lot, and I got rid of a lot of my biases from that point of spending time with so many different races and religions and genders and everything else. But I still want to say I'm not bias free, right? I'm not perfect in any way, and I still struggle with some of them. And I think I said what I've learned through all of my experience of having so many different people is there's so much hate in the world that as soon as you say something that is anti, it becomes a battle. And I'm much rather speaking in safe spaces. I've said this last time, I will say what my biases are, but I don't really want to be cancelled. I want to learn and be told that I'm either wrong or we agree to disagree, but we walk out the door as friends. And I think this industry is fantastic for that. So that's my point, is my career has allowed me to grow through my own personal beliefs have changed and evolved as I've learned. And the reason I've done that is because it's been an immersive experience where I've got into different cultures and other bits and pieces. And I don't know how I've got to where I am, to be honest with you. I've winged it for most of my career. But the thing I think I am good at, and I didn't really realise it until quite later on in my career, is I like listening to people, and the biggest buzz I get is about seeing somebody I've worked with succeed. All the rest of the stuff is pretty ordinary, because that's the bit that I realise gives me, the buzz to get up in the morning and keeps me going. So this is part of it, and I think that is really important in your career. Is think where you go, challenge yourself, go to roles that actually you're going to be challenged in, and change mindset, and have your mindset changed and be open, but always put your arm around that person, even if you disagree, and go, listen, I don't get you or what you are, but I respect you. And I think that was a word that used earlier on. Respect is the bit that's gone missing. And then, sorry, I'll finish up because I'm a bit of a one ear, aren't I? But it's the other thing is, if we could just wipe out the word offend out of the dictionary and start all over again, and say, how do we work, and build the word as respect is the thing that we need to do, then it would be a whole lot different, and people such as Sharon would be able to get on in the world a whole lot easier. So sorry, that's a bit of I don't mean to be preachy, but it's just, I think it's really important to get that piece out, to say what I've learned, because I was as biased as the most person ever could be. I think because you grew up in the 60s and 70s, it was a weird world, right?
And there has been a change in a lot of corporate businesses, but still not enough. And
no.
It would be good to hear, Jools, Akvile, did you feel that you had support from male colleagues in the past, in previous lives, previous roles? Or are you only finding that support now that you're part of a structured male allyship programme?
That's a good question. I mean, I've been working on my own for a long time, and I work in the wellness industry. I kind of straddle between wellness and travel. I feel more at home here, but the wellness industry is dominated by women. So there aren't that many men around in my industry anyway. So, but before I did this bit career, I worked in international development. So I used to work for the UK government, and that was a very male-dominated industry. So I've kind of always been a bit fighting my corner. But for quite a long time, I've just been on my own. So I've not had that same experience of being in an organisation having to fight for a long time. But sometimes, I tell you, something that happens to me quite often is when I'm negotiating with new venues, because my name's spelled Jools, quite often when I'm like emailing people, they think I'm a man. And then when I turn up, they go, oh, I thought you were a man. And it's quite interesting, the surprise on their face, because they've thought they've been negotiating with a man. I don't really know what that means, but it comes up quite often, and it's almost like they're surprised that I was quite good. I don't know if that's quite what you're asking me, but that's kind of my experience in my industry.
Yeah. So are you saying you need to pretend to be a man to get a response then? No.
I think sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be the right message. Really.
No.
Yeah.
I'm saying that's something that I've kind of come against that I don't like.
Yeah, but going back to, I mean, it's interesting you worked in the government, but in those kind of roles, you didn't feel you were getting that support.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
No, this is kind of my first experience of it, I would say,
Yeah, Akvile.
So I have 2 points.
Good.
Expedition cruising industry is a very male-driven industry, and I did have a short stint of working on board the ship, on expedition ship in the Pacific Ocean, which was an interesting experience. I literally worked alongside people who almost fought bears with like bare hands and, and stuff like that. So in that sense, it is an interesting environment to be a female and to have some aspirations to, in my current life, I suppose, we also make choices, what kind of men we surround ourselves with. So I co-founded this with Martin, and, I do think he's great.
That's Martin Johnson of Latin Roots.
Yeah. So, to a degree, that also was something I was considering, because you do choose a person you want to work with and so on, and I'm very happy with the way he is as a, I do think he's a great male ally, and in fact, I'm working on it, Alessandra. Same goes for, the partner you choose to be with in your personal life and so on. So, I do occasionally get things where, where you sit in the meeting and probably I'm the only female, and I just, there are a couple of times when you're not even looked at, because people just don't assume that you are probably decision maker, and that kind of peeves me. But it's you choose your battles, you choose your supplies, and that's a nice thing about being in a position of decision making, because then you can start choosing places and people to work with that actually proactively support you on whatever basis,
Yeah.
gender including. So yeah.
Yes. So
I will make decisions based on these kind of things, and I proudly so.
yes, and now moving into a more senior position, but you found it perhaps easier in those meetings involving men.
The thing is that, yeah, I suppose it's, again, you with the age you also get a bit more experience and you kind of know how to handle situations, and I do call things out. I'm quite a direct person, so I will mention it. If I have to, joke about it, I will joke about it. If I have to,
Yeah.
I will call people out on that. So.
Yeah, good.
Because sometimes I generally don't think people intend bad things, but it's world has to change as well, and sometimes it's a matter of just like, or maybe even taking a person aside. I literally sat on occasions in meetings where a person was like, "Let me mansplain you." He actually used the word.
He used the word.
He used the word, and I was like, "We have to have a chat about this." So it's and we did, and they stopped.
Embarrassed to hear that.
But anyway,
embarrassed for men.
But again, I don't think it was from bad intentions. It's just sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
it's as much up to us to correct it as it is for a person to strive to be a better male leader for an inclusive environment. So
absolutely, yeah. Well, look, let's come back to our mentors. I know, as I said, there are more men in the room this year, which is great. And I know some of you won't be part of this program. Some of you might be thinking about becoming part of this program. I'm quite interested to hear from the three of you about the benefits that you're getting and why you're giving up your time to be on the program. Let's dig into that a little bit more. Shaon.
So for me, it's, one of the things I joked about last year was the first rule of being a male ally is shut the fuck up and listen. And then
Okay, we'll move on.
But then I got Alessandra, bless her, she then turned me into an ambassador, so I did this globally. So she sent me out to Switzerland to represent the Male Allyship Group at the ATTA, so the Adventure Travel Trade Association. The problem is bigger than I had even kind of considered. So it's not just the UK; it's everywhere. It's some places more so than others. So it's actually really good to be able to share the message and to, as I said earlier on, try and fix the problem and try and work towards that. And with even baby steps are actually massive, because it's about getting people aware about what the challenges are right now. And through Jools, I've learned loads. I mean, the transformation I've seen with her has been rewarding for me, and also it helps me with understanding how to communicate better to kind of get more out of somebody. So, Jools has had some like massive milestones within this kind of I can't believe it's 6 months. I mean, one of the things that she did was, she was always involved, as you said, she was always involved in her retreats, and she was always delivering. She had her first successful retreat without her being there, which, if she had said that in year one or on day one, she would never have seen that coming. And one of the other big milestones, which I've only ever seen other corporates do, like big corporates do, is, do you want to share?
I've been doing my B Corp for the last 2 years. Thanks. It's taken me a long time because it's just me, and I had a B leader who was advised me, but a lot of work to take my small business through the process, and I got rejected the first time. And then I went back in. They told me that I didn't have enough evidence that retreats are good for you, because I know you have to have evidence. And so I went off, and I've got a fantastic advisory board, which is all part of my B Corp process. And I went off and developed my own measuring tools. So I measure how people feel before they come on a trip and how they feel at the end. So I've now collected a whole year's worth of data, and then went back to B Corp.
Amazing.
I went, right.
Yeah.
And I found out 3 weeks ago that I've been certified.
Fantastic. Sam, let's just come back to that question. Why are you giving up your time? how much are you learning from Akvile?
Why am I giving? Well, you try saying no to Alessandra, but yeah, well, you haven't. You failed, right? No. One of the benefits that I definitely had is just, I think we all need to get better at kind of, well, speak for myself, need to get better at kind of that coaching style of kind of leadership and making sure you allow people to be, multiply themselves and to amplify themselves and in trying to be a mentor, really, following their advice they give, just trying to think about, okay, what they're trying to get out of it, how we're going to do it, and just being quiet and asking questions and trying not to jump in. But I failed miserably at that most of the time because it's too exciting, so I just want to jump in. But yeah, that I guess was one major thing. I also learned a massive amount about a side of the travel industry I knew nothing about. Akvile is so passionate about expedition cruises, and it's amazing, and there's a whole sector out there that I didn't know, and they're doing amazing things. So yeah, that was another thing that I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, and the energy as well. I could go on really, but yeah. That's a thing.
Good. And Clive, any more on this?
Well, I think it's just, for me, was to have conversations about a fresh subject. You get wrapped up in everything business travel, which most people glaze over when you mention the business travel. So to hear, to talk to someone and talk about their career in travel outside of that is really good for me, and to learn about different cultures. I have to say, I didn't know too much about Israeli culture. It's not one of the countries that I visited, but so I think it's just been refreshing that it's a break from what I do every day, in the sense of talking about something very different and talking to someone different, and that feels pretty rewarding. But we haven't reached the end game yet, so if there's anybody out there wants a fantastic person to work for them, then she's sat here. So absolutely never rest. It's important to achieve that. But I think it's been good to see you change direction, and you were aiming far too low was the problem. I think we established, and it was just helping somebody actually, you shouldn't be going for that. You should be going here. So we've gradually narrowed it down, and I've learned that quite so much from it. But that's it really.
Excellent stuff. Now we will open up for questions, so do store any questions that you have, however personal. I said it was a very open and honest panel. Just a final one from me. Any unexpected benefits that have come out from being part of this programme?
I've got a new friend, right? You don't know you're going to come out with that. We come in genuinely. We've got a friendship that will last, and it's like you do that. You move on. You watch how Sharon's career and everything will grow. And I don't know if I expected that. If I'm being honest with you, I wasn't sure that was the case. So it's a great thing, that alone.
Yeah.
If you agree, that is clearly.
She's gone.
Yeah. Exit left.
Yes.
I think. I kind of came into it wanting to learn from an expert, but I've come out with a completely changed mindset, and I wasn't expecting that. I've kind of, I'm 55, I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time, and I've kind of been liberated from being a control freak. And I wasn't expecting that. I sort of thought I was, but then realising like how much I was trying to control, and I'm not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
Like I did a retreat a couple of weeks ago, and my team were like, "You're very laid back these days, Jools." I'm just like letting them do it, and it's just so liberating. And I wasn't expecting that. I just thought I'd learn a few things to make my business better, but I've changed, and that's just been, I feel very
And you
lucky.
attribute part of that to Shaon's influence?
All of it, yeah.
Really, yeah.
This whole process has taken me there.
He's a calming kind of guy, isn't he?
So calm.
I'm just kind of chilling out over him.
It was actually quite easy working with Jools because she's really, really focused, highly, highly driven. And actually it was just a question of, okay, well, where are these problems? Okay, well, why don't you do this? And then she'd like run off and go off and do it, and then she'd come back and say, I've done it. So actually, I did very little this year. But actually, no, one of the biggest kind of unexpected things for me this year was when Jools was struggling with certain things. I was having a conversation with Alessandra, and Alessandra said, perhaps sometimes people get in their own way before they have that shift. And actually it's that kind of realization of what the problem, well, not the problem, but what the challenge that Jools kept coming across, and how we might kind of face that. And Jools was open to it. And I think, like I said, timing is a key thing, because a lot of time people won't necessarily be at the place where they will be open to receiving that kind of communication. And so it was good that we had this safe space where we could talk about anything. There was no judgment, and it was more about a collaborative effort to work towards fixing these problems or solving these issues.
Yeah.
And every time I'd come back, I was always amazed. In fact, the stuff she's done in 6 months, 6-7 months, I've seen other organisations take years to do. So I'm just amazed.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that collaborative theme coming out again in this session, actually, because I think we've heard that all day, actually. I remember that point around, what a fantastic industry where we want to help each other. And there are so many examples of that today.
Well, helping, one of the other things I'll say is that with her organisation, she's been quite giving. One of the things that she's quite well known for is actually donating retreats for NHS workers post-pandemic. So she's put her own money up front to get people who've been like in the hurt zone room or hurt locker rooms, saving lives, and then she put this out for them, and it's just an amazing thing to do. So
brilliant. You've done really well for applause this afternoon.
I have, haven't I? Well, I'm way out of my comfort zone. Thank you.
Did you have something else, or should we go for a question? Yep.
I think, I do agree with Clive on friendship front, and I think I'm a bookworm, so I really like reading, and I do think I'm quite creative thinker, and it was just so nice to meet somebody like me in a way, So we were kind of bouncing off ideas and books and stuff like that. I think I got more from Sam than I gave, but it's also a very nice aspect of that, because it's not something that I encounter on a daily basis. But I'm 2 or 3 books richer than I was before, which I would have not thought about or found necessarily on my own. So yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, any questions in the room? Yeah. Yes, over here. Can we get the microphone? Is that Chris?
Of course it is. That was wonderful. That was so great. Thank you, everyone. I have one question to the male-identifying panelists. Don't worry, you're off the hook. It's fine. Really want to know, have you introduced any female-inspired HR policies because of your learnings from the lived experiences of the amazing females on the stage?
Yep. Any changes to HR policies as a result of talking with your female mentees?
So this is not from this year, but from the previous year, we implemented a period of time when women were coming back from maternity leave, about giving some an adjustment period. So the challenge at the time was when women are reintroduced to the workplace post having a baby, the assumption might have been that they were up to date with what was been going on. But in that period, companies move forward, particularly in tech, for example, where everything changes every 5 weeks. So it's giving that adjustment period to allow for assimilation, for any additional training that might be needed, some space to take on board and to kind of push back on things if they're not ready. So that's definitely something we did. That was from last year. We put that in.
Yeah. Any more?
Well, not specifically, Chris, although I was thinking things from the neurodiverse panel earlier, that there's definitely some things we could put in place. But going back to what I said earlier about looking at a different perspective, it definitely did make me think. Sometimes naturally, if there's an event that we're doing, I usually do and talk it and take it and things like that. And I was thinking the other day, actually, we were at a Travel by B Corp event, and we've talked. And my co-founder, Melissa, had said, "I don't want to do this because I'm a bit nervous. I haven't got time to prepare. Will you do it?" And I said, "Yeah, fine." But actually, probably I should have said, "Why don't you think about it for a couple of days?" Because actually, you'd be brilliant at it, better at me anyway. You know more about this, and so that's something I probably changed as a result of doing this. But I haven't made a policy of it yet, but learning from Jools I will do. So.
Yeah. I can help you with that.
Excellent.
And any more questions from the floor? We've got the dreaded flashing clock here. Yes, okay. Can we have the microphone?
Thanks. Thank you. Hello? Oh, yes. My question to all of you is, do you feel that how are you matched? That's my question. How are you matched between mentors and mentees, and is there a learning from
Alexander.
I should answer that possibly. This is still working. So there is a structure. It's a completely structured program, and by the way, there is a fee as well. So it's not free of charge, although it's not a very, very big one. But what happens is that each individual sends or applies. There is first a very short application online, and then we respond and send a bigger sort of application where the mentee describes their needs, their objectives, why they think the mentoring is right, what they're trying to achieve, and so on. Similarly, the male ally does a very similar thing. And they join as a male ally, and then they decide whether they also want to mentor. So it's not compulsory to mentor as part of the male allyship network, because the network is about becoming visible as a male ally, which you could do in different ways. But I would say that 95% of those who are in the network want to also be mentored. So then we take the forms and we look at sort of quite analytically at the skills required and so on. Now, sometimes it's not about exactly you are a tour operator, you want to launch a tour operator, so here is someone who does that. Because actually matching is an art more than a science, and you simply have to understand the person's needs and feel a little bit, use also a little bit your experience, in my case 20 years of mentoring, and sort of intuition to understand whether perhaps they need someone quite different because they need the challenge, or they need sort of to open up a little bit their thinking and so on, or whether they can learn from another sector or subsector. But in order to confirm the matching on paper, we then get them together. So when they are introduced to each other, we have a first meeting, generally virtual meeting. And so the mentee explains their objective, and the mentor ally kind of say, yeah, that resonates, I can help. I can sort of help with that, or this is a bit different, but interested. And sometimes you can see it within 15 minutes. It's absolutely the perfect match. Sometimes it is not quite so, and it takes a little bit longer. And sometimes it doesn't work because, everything notwithstanding, you've got chemistry, and you don't need to be best friends. Maybe you come out as best friends, but you do need some chemistry to work with each other. And I would say that right now we have 30 senior male allies, and Simona, correct me, 27 couples, something like that. And probably out of the 27, maybe 2 haven't quite gone according to plan. So overall, but we always say, if something doesn't work out, by the end of the second session, you will know. And there is nothing wrong with you, and there is nothing wrong with the ally. You are just not suited for each other, so we will rematch you. But as I said, often it's, so we go through all these steps in the process.
Great. I think on my third microphone of the session, that's a great time on which to finish. Can I invite you, please, to thank for their honesty and their real insight there, the panel. Thank you.
Hello everyone, how are you doing? We're basically at the end. It's just me between you and a drink, and that is never a good place to take too much time. So, my name is Finnbar. I have the privilege of leading the travel team here at Google. I wanted just to start just with a few thank yous, but I'm also a member of the Allyship community network and a mentor, and I can echo everything I've heard on stage. It's been a great program to be part of. I wanted to start with some quick thank yous. So there were some amazing people in my team that have helped to bring all of this together. There's Kat at the back, there's Ed. If you could thank them. The production team who've made all the microphones work. I can't thank them enough, so thank you for making this happen. The person I think I need to thank most of all is Alessandra. But we could all join me in giving her a huge round of applause. To you and your team for making all of this happen, so thank you so much. But I wanted to close just by actually thanking you all for coming here to join us in our Google office today. So hopefully you've been comfortable in our King's Cross office, in the space. It's worked for you? Okay, so the good news is that we are going to host again next year. That's what we make. We are figuring out the date that's going to work best for everyone, but we're really delighted to kind of host you all. But I wanted to close by just thinking about a few of the things to take away. There has been some great summaries. And this is what I heard as I've gone round and listened to some of the groups here. What you said is the key takeaways is to be yourself, is to respect before you understand, listening and unlearn to stand with diversity, and to normalize belonging. That's what you were hearing from some of the sessions. That everybody's unique and we need to take the time to look at the world through their eyes. Self-awareness about who we are and the journey we're on. Collaborations and co-creation. How to take this platform to share learnings and share successes. That's really powerful. There was one group that's talking about if we're doing things right, we should talk more about them. But also, how do we make faster progress on diversity issues? It's most important to be human. Most successful businesses are made up of diverse people. There was a lot of comments, I thought, about the neurodiversity sessions. Everybody was finding them really interesting. Think about how to create neurodiverse spaces in our businesses as we come back and think about that. And this stat, I think, has resonated with lots of people. About 60% of people who work in travel are female, but it's men in the senior positions. And we need to get more women into these positions and to promote. And that's part of what we're doing with Google in terms of our kind of support to women in travel, and in a small way supporting you and your initiatives to have kind of greater impact. And so thank you for the opportunity to partner with you on that. If I can leave one plug, one thing we're doing is the employability program. So we have supported 10 women, underserved women, over the last sort of 10 months or so with an employability training. We have a careers fair at Google on July the 4th. And so if there's anyone here that would be interested in meeting some of these women, please let Alessandra know. We'd love to kind of have you as part of that. But I wanted to close. I thought the final thing is, if I could bottle the energy and the conversations and the connections that I've seen in this room today, I'd have the most powerful energy drink in the entire world. And I just would love to know how together we can kind of take this forward and strive for the change that we all want to see in this industry that we're all kind of part of and love. And there were some amazing quotes, but the one that I loved most of all today, and I thought the one to close, is one from Jazz, which was adding value and bringing joy. And I thought if we could all take that away and all go away and add value and bring joy, we'd all be in a much better place. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you again to Alessandra. We'll see you next year.